Hey everybody, it's Dr. Glenn and it's Tuesday, 12:30, so it's time for Dr. Glenn Live. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is leaky gut. And the reason it's one of my favorite topics is because for a long time, not only did I not know what leaky gut was, I didn't realize that I had one. And unfortunately, most doctors don't know what leaky gut is, and they couldn't explain it to you if they had to save their license. So, we're going to talk about leaky gut. It is a huge problem that we see nowadays. And so, exactly what is a leaky gut? Well, the official definition of a leaky gut is leaky gut or intestinal permeability. Now, I remember, about when I first heard about this, nobody, serious scientists and doctors, would not use the word leaky gut. All right, that was far too layperson for a science-oriented person. So we would call it intestinal hyperpermeability or intestinal permeability. But everybody now just writes leaky gut because it's a whole lot less to type. So leaky gut is a condition in which the lining of the small intestine becomes damaged. And that can cause undigested food particles, toxic waste products, and bacteria to leak through the intestines and flood into the bloodstream. And of course, when things get into the bloodstream that are not supposed to be there, then we get an immune response, and that is not good. So let me show you something here to kind of give you a little analogy. I like to use analogies. If you've been following me for a while, I try to get stuff to where you can actually understand what it means. So I want you to think of leaky gut like a coffee filter. So you've got a coffee filter, you got the coffee grounds in the coffee filter, you pour the hot water on the coffee grounds, and the coffee seeps down, leaks down through the filter, and you get it into your coffee pot. Now, that is good, and that's the way we want it, because you don't want all that nasty coffee ground stuff in your coffee pot. But if somebody came along and poked some holes in your coffee filter, then you would end up with coffee grounds in your coffee. And if you took a big swig of coffee and you got a mouthful of coffee grounds, you probably would not like it. And you'd probably have a big reaction. Well, that's kind of what your immune system does. You'd probably spit it out, all over the place. Well, your immune system does the same thing. When stuff gets into the blood that is not supposed to be there, like undigested proteins, bacteria, all kinds of garbage and stuff like that, what happens? Your immune system has a reaction to try to get rid of it. And you make antibodies and all kinds of things like that. And what we now know that we did not know even 10 years ago is that in order to have an autoimmune disease, you have to have a leaky gut. Now, leaky gut is not something you want, but the good thing is leaky gut is fixable. The wonderful thing about the body is it's always healing and creating new tissue and things like that. And what people don't realize is you get a new intestinal lining about every 5 to 7 days. And all you have to do is stop damaging and irritating the intestinal lining, and it will heal itself. So I'm going to go down. Let's show you a few other things. So what are some symptoms that would warn you that you might have a leaky gut? Well, constipation, diarrhea, or alternating of those two things. A lot of people, constipation is a huge issue, and I never really appreciated it until I started doing functional medicine. There are an awful lot of people that just don't go like they're supposed to. And unfortunately, a lot of doctors are out there telling patients, oh, if you go 4 or 5 times a week, that's normal for you. No, it's not. If you eat every day, you go every day. You should be going at least 1 to 3 times per day. Anything less is not enough, and anything more than 3 times a day on a regular basis is too much. Think about it. When you get sick, what does your body do? You get diarrhea. Why? It's trying to get stuff out of you faster. And so constipation and diarrhea are both not okay. Gas and bloating, that is a huge sign that something is wrong in the gut. You should not have gas and you should not be bloating. Now, I know that a lot of guys out there, they think that farting all the time is like a rite of passage to manhood or something like that. Well, you shouldn't be doing that. If you're doing that, then there is something not right in your gut. Other symptoms, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is a huge sign that you have a leaky gut problem. Joint and muscle aches and pains, anemia. You know, when I first started doing this, I had no concept that so many people were anemic. I would say that right now, when we run blood labs on our patients, we probably see at least 70% of the people come back, their blood labs come back, and they have anemia. Now, it may not be severe anemia, but you know, you got to remember something. If you can't get good quality blood with plenty of oxygen in it out to the tissues that need to be healed and repaired, you're going to end up with problems. So anemia is a big deal, and it's about one of the very first things that we fix for patients, and a lot of people have no idea that they have that going on. Allergies, increasing allergies, that is a huge sign that you have a leaky gut. What's happening is you get bits of undigested protein into the blood, you develop an immune response, and that protein could be anything from, you know, a bacteria or something, which could be bad, to a piece of broccoli or, you know, cauliflower or something like that. You should not have a bunch of food sensitivities and allergies. Leaky gut goes along with that. Chronic fatigue is a huge marker for leaky gut because you're not able to make energy like you're supposed to, and immune system dysfunction or autoimmune disease. You know, Alessio Fasano proved in 2009 that I'd already mentioned this, that in order to have an autoimmune disease, one of the three factors that must be present is a leaky gut. Now, I've got a little video here that I would like to show you. Let me get it, and we'll go right there, and let's watch this. Okay, so what we have is at the top, you see these little particles going along. Then you have the cells, that's the pink parts, and the cells are supposed to be held together by these things called tight junctions. And when you break down the tight junctions, what happens is food particles and other things can get into your bloodstream. This is not good. This is the origin of your autoimmune disease. So we want to see that fixed. The other thing that can happen is the cells themselves can break down, not just the junctions between them, but the actual cells themselves can break down, and that's through exposure to things like toxins like glyphosate and things like that, and even post-hybridized wheat with the gluten. You know, the new gluten has a lot different proteins in it than the old gluten did prior to the hybridization. So that kind of shows you what happens in a leaky gut. So let's go back here, and I want to get rid of that. So let's look at this. What are some of the things that can cause a leaky gut? Well, chronic stress can cause a leaky gut. Inflammatory foods, excess alcohol. By the way, what is excess alcohol? I look at it like this. Your liver has the capacity to deal with a certain amount of toxic exposure. So I look at it, you know, 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol a day is not a problem. Glass of wine in the evening with your dinner, maybe a cocktail or something, that's not a problem. When you go over a couple of glasses, then what's happened is you've exceeded the liver's capacity to work that out of you, and then that does become a problem. Medications such as Nsaids and steroids. If you don't know what Nsaids are, that's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. And that's one of the most common drugs that doctors prescribe are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Give you for just about everything unless you're depressed, and they give you an antidepressive. The next thing, H. pylori. H. pylori is a bacteria. A lot of people have H. pylori bacteria. It's not a problem unless it becomes overgrown. So H. pylori, also SIBO. SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And what happens is when the bacteria that live in the colon migrate up into the small intestine, they've moved into somebody else's neighborhood. That is not okay. The bacteria in the colon belong in the colon. The bacteria in the small intestine belong there. And they're not supposed to be moving into the other part of the gut. Hormonal imbalances, that's a big deal. Autoimmune disease. This is interesting. It's kind of a paradox here because you have to have an autoimmune disease. I mean, you have to have a leaky gut to produce an autoimmune disease, but autoimmune diseases can then turn around and produce more leaky gut. So you kind of get into a vicious cycle. Processed foods will cause leaky gut. All the chemicals and garbage that's in them. Toxins, the big one is glyphosate, Roundup that is sprayed on our crops. That breaks down the intestinal lining just so fast. I've actually got some pictures. Within 16 minutes of ingesting glyphosate. Glyphosate is on wheat grown in North America. That's a reason to be gluten-free. It's not necessarily the gluten, but it's the pesticides they spray on the food. Genetically modified corn, soy, lots of your crops are sprayed with glyphosate. Within 16 minutes of ingesting glyphosate, your gut lining begins to break down. Vitamin D deficiency will cause leaky gut. And just last year in Europe, they raised the minimum acceptable standard reference to 50. In the US, it's still 30 for vitamin D. I like to see it in the 70 to 80 range for my patients. Vitamin D is a steroid hormone that is a building block for a lot of good things that you need. Brain injury. I talk about this a lot because everybody just said, "Oh, brain injury." That's like when you get smacked. Something happens and now you're crippled or it's not good. Well, just running around and playing football is a huge impact to the brain. It's not really a smart idea. I'm sorry if I offend you, but you shouldn't be putting helmets on little boys and telling them to go out and use their heads as weapons. That's kind of like dumb. So, but what we know now is that within two hours of a head injury, and that includes a football injury, within 2 hours of a head injury, your gut-brain communication starts to falter. And I see so many people in their teens and 20s that have had this chronic, long-term onset of gut trouble and stuff like that. Nobody knows why. And you know what? Quite often we can trace it back to a closed head injury. Degeneration also is a big thing right there. Now, so those are some of the things that can cause a leaky gut. And you can actually measure leaky gut. Now, what you see here, this is a Cyrex Array 2. And a Cyrex Array 2, all of these things that are listed in here, this occludin, zonulin, lipopolysaccharides, all of these things, they should not be in the blood. And if they are in the blood, the only way that they can get there is through a leaky gut. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that you can heal a leaky gut. This is not some curse for life. This is not some badge that you wear around the rest of your life and say, I got a leaky gut, No, I used to have a leaky gut. I don't have a leaky gut anymore. Why? I stopped eating foods and things like that destroyed my gut lining. I started eating the right stuff, and I took some supportive supplements that helped to heal the intestinal lining. You get a new intestinal lining about every 5 days. If you'll just stop beating it up, it will grow back like it's supposed to. Now, this person, you can see these guys right down here in the pink on the right-hand side here, lipopolysaccharides. Those things should not be there. This person has a leaky gut. Now, she went through, or this one is actually a he. This is actually a doctor that came to see me. This is his gut. And he had developed something called cerebellar ataxia, and we traced it down to a leaky gut that developed an autoimmune disease that was attacking his cerebellum. That's not good. But what we did is we put him on a gut repair protocol, cleaned up his diet. Check out his Array 2, 3 months later. No more leaky gut. No more leaky gut. No more walking with a cane. back to running 10Ks and marathons. This guy's a great athlete, but he'd gotten to where he couldn't even walk without a cane. So you can heal a leaky gut if you know what to do, if you do the right things. So if you'd like to know more about this, we treat this stuff in our office every day. You have to do the right things. It's not hard, but you have to do the right thing. So I want to thank you for being here today. We have some great supplements and support things for leaky gut. If you want to use us to help you with that, that's fine. You can call the number there, 703-303-8844. Lenine will be happy to talk to you. Something else I want to mention is coming up into September now, we're going to be starting our workshops again. We have two very popular workshops on Saturday, September the 8th at 11 o'clock at our office here in Reston. We'll be doing a workshop, the 6 overlooked root causes of Hashimoto's and thyroid disease. We'll show you how to figure out what's wrong with your thyroid and how to fix it. And then the next Saturday, September the 15th, also here at our office, 11 o'clock in the morning, we will be doing a workshop on how to reverse autoimmune disease. Yes, autoimmune disease is reversible, and if you know the right things to do, that can be done. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. If you want to know more about the workshops, you can go to our website and look under events, and it will actually take you to a place on Eventbrite where you can sign up, or you can just call Lenine and ask her, and she'll be happy to help you out with that. Also, if you have any topics that you would like for me to talk about, please just send me an email, or you can type them in the comments box below this when it gets posted up on the Facebook page. But you can write to me at drglennlive@gmail.com. That's drglennlive@gmail.com. Send me an email. If you want to ask me some questions, that's fine. I'll be happy to answer your questions as best I can. And I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much for watching this Facebook Live. And we'll be back next week and with a new topic. And I hope you have a wonderful day today.